I'm here at the Elite FTS compound today, and we're going to talk about the lat pull down. We're firstly going to start about how we're going to go through setting up and how we're going to execute the movement correctly, and then we're going to go through a different couple of variations that you can do for different reasons. So I've got Tom here with me today. I'm going to get him to demonstrate for me correctly. So I'm just going to get Tom to set up here. So the first thing is just where you're sitting in the machine. So you want to make sure that he is far forward enough and that this is planted against his legs, and make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. Now where we're going to go with the hand movement to start with is we're going to start with a pronated grip, so palms facing away, and we're going to go for just slightly wider than the shoulders here. Now from this point, what I want Tom to focus on is retracting the scapula, so that is physically pulling the shoulders back and down and almost slotting them together. So I'm just going to get you to do that there. Now what we don't want to do is allow the chest to rise to do that, so he also needs to focus on keeping his ribs tucked down. Now from there, we want to focus on pulling down with the bar, but keeping the elbows tucked in forward. We're looking for about a 30-degree angle. Now that puts the lat in the best line of movement and the strongest position. So from there, we're just going to get Tom to pull down, keeping his elbows tucked in and together. Now he's going to go as far as he can without letting the elbows shift back. Now from there, we're going to bring the movement back up. We don't want to let it pull. We're going to imagine you're almost pushing the weight back up to the ceiling. So we want control in both the downward and the upward part of the movement. So we're just going to do a couple more demonstrations there. So he's retracting the scapula back, pulling the shoulders back and down, making sure that the elbows don't shift back. Now where you end that movement is going to be based on your body proportions. So that might be slightly lower or slightly higher than where Tom is getting the bar. But what we just don't want is for those elbows to shift back out of that position, just there, like that. For that extra range of motion, we do not want that because you're taking the work off of your back. So what we want to make sure is that we keep those elbows tucked together and we go as far as we can. So just going to bring that back up. So I'm just going to get Tom to demonstrate what happens if you pull the bar down, and then he's going to let the weight pull him up and his chest is going to rise. And this is what we see here is a bit of curvature in the back, and it's taking the emphasis off the upper back here. So what you want to make sure is that as the weight is pushing back up, you're keeping your ribs tucked down, and it's almost all controlled from here. So we're just going to pull down, make sure the elbows don't go back, and it's imagine you're pushing that weight back up. That's great. You can relax for a moment. Thank you. So we're going to go through a couple of different variations that you might see in the gym and why they would be useful. So the first one is supinated grip, and that is where you turn your hands in so your palms are facing. Now when you go to grip the bar, that is going to go slightly more narrow. So what you're going to look for is that that is going to line up with the shoulder. So it's not slightly wider, it's just lined up with the shoulder. Now this is a good variation if you have long arms, because people with long arms tend to have really great lat engagement, but they tend to not use the biceps so much. So this variation will use the biceps more, but we're still getting good movement in the lats. So we're just going to pull down, again, making sure that those elbows stay forward and together, keeping the shoulders back and down and bringing it back up. Now you want to look for the same things going wrong that we did in the original movement. The only difference is that this is a little bit more bicep work than the original. That's great. You can pop it all the way back up. The next variation you see is when people tend to put their hands wider. Now this is a great variation if you have shorter arms, because with shorter arms you tend to use your arm muscles a lot more and have not as good lat engagement. So this is going to engage the lats more and take the biceps out of the movement. So I'm just going to get Tom to demonstrate that. Make sure you keep the elbows tucked in. Don't let them come back, and then bring it back up. Again, we're looking for those same things that we did in the original movement. It's just the hand position is now slightly wider again. Another alternative though, if you have short arms, is actually, and I think better, is just doing a straight arm pull down, because that takes the arm muscles out of the movement completely and it really focuses on the lats. So when we're doing this, what we want to look for is to sit the hips slightly back to start with. Arms are going to go straight. We're looking for just a slightly wider than shoulder grip on the bar. Then I'm going to get him to focus on retracting the scapula again, bringing those shoulders slotted back and down, keeping the ribs tucked down, and he's just going to bring his arms straight down to his hip. Okay, the only movement we want to see is the arms coming straight back up. Again, control it like he's pulling it up, straight back down. Now what tends to happen with this movement is that people allow it to go too far back up, and you lose the scapular retraction and you lose your alignment here. So make sure that you only go as far as you can, but while keeping the shoulder retracted and the ribs tucked down.